All right, guys. So for the last little while, I've been caretaking for my grandma, and one of her favorite shows is The View. I watch The View almost with her every day, but I haven't gotten to watch it since election day. I am a Trump supporter. I love my grandma. I love that she loves the show. I love to sit there and listen to these women absolutely melt down over shit and react way too crazy to it. So it's fun. Let's watch. This is the day after the election.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before.
The former and now next president trumps the polls and declares victory.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Which
and your 46th president.
Right and rejected the vice president's message.
We are not going back.
Is there concern over who he's topping for his administration?
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he came out. And he's going to help make America healthy again.
Make America healthy again.
And after running a deeply divisive campaign, will he make good on his promise to America?
It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite.
From the path to the White House and all the way down the ballot, ABC News political director and Washington bureau chief Rick Klein has the coast-to-coast roadmap of how America voted and how it'll change the course of the country. Here come Hot Topics with Whoopi, Sarah Haynes,
Fucking Whoopi.
Joy Behar,
Fucking cunts, dude. All of these women. Every fucking one of them.
Alyssa Farah Griffin. Now, let's get things started.
I see this version of me is. I see the vision. I see me. This is the view I see.
Listen, y'all. Welcome to The View. Thank you for coming today. So what happened last night? Anybody do anything interesting? Okay. The 2024 presidential race ended yesterday. And this is what
She mad
the
at us?
country and the world
She gonna be
woke
mad
up
at
to
us?
this morning. Take a look.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
So, how you feel?
I'll start.
Wonderful.
My takeaway is that the system works. We live in a democracy. People spoke. This is what people wanted. I vehemently disagree with the decision that Americans made, but I feel very, very hopeful that
That one
we
over
have
on
a
the right
democratic
better
system
feel
in
like
this country.
fucking
We
shit
should
right
value
now.
it. We should love it.
Fucking
We should
traitor,
protest
dude.
If
Fucking
the situation arises that we need to protest, which I'm sure it
for
will.
money too.
And I've been through this before with Nixon. It's been very difficult. But boy, oh boy, do we have a country if we can keep it.
Yeah. Well, echoing the sentiments, Joy, one of the first thing I wanted to say for anyone that needs an example of when the person you voted for does not win, you do not say the system must be broken or that it was rigged. You say it is what it is, and you show up.
Well, I mean,
anyway.
it was 4 years
I
ago.
want to commend all those people that voted, because you
Definitely
sometimes
was.
hear people say, "Well, it didn't matter."
If
Well,
not
it
for
did matter.
COVID,
that was
for
still
other
your
reasons.
currency, that was still your power, and people turned out. Now, if you didn't vote, you really don't have a say in the conversation, so you can go ahead and sit down. But for the rest of you, and then a lot of what I think about is what I always tell my kids when things go on. You feel what you feel. Everyone has different emotions. Some people got what they wanted. A lot of people didn't. And you feel anything that comes up, and then you turn around and you say, let's look at the tapes. Let's see what we did. Let's see how we continue to fight for the people that we care about. And you take one step in front of the other. And so
It's actually
here
one of
we
the
are today,
smartest,
and
like,
I
responses
still
I've heard.
feel that optimistic, because I feel arm in arm with so many people who agree with me. And I'm not going to stop marching. So
I like this pep talk, Coach Haynes. Listen, is it the outcome I wanted? No, but we live in a democracy. I have my vote.
Right.
Millions of people cast their votes did. And what's important to me is this. Tens of millions of Americans, our friends, our neighbors, our family members, voted for Donald Trump. We disagree with him. I know we all do at this table, but they are good, decent people who are patriots and love this country. And I can't speak to what drove them to
Good
the
and
conclusion
decent,
of being
unlike
with him,
yourself,
but I
you
think it is
fucking
a moment
bitch.
for us to listen to each other, to hear each other, express what our concerns are. I've spent the last 4 years doing that.
God,
And
it's
also
nice
listen to
watching the
people
show
who are
without my
with him,
grandma
because
around.
this is a country that there is truly more that unites us than divides us. I know it doesn't feel like that for many people in this moment, but we need to bring down the temperature, the name calling, the demonizing.
Not that I
Let
don't
the
love
other
watching it with
side-
her.
Let, you know, if they want to do that, they can do it. But I think it is a moment to listen to the voters. And this, I have to say, I've always thought he could win. I thought in the final stretch she might eke it out. I didn't expect it to be this resounding, and I think there are some lessons from
Yeah,
it.
if you would, you
I
probably
think
wouldn't
we
be on the
forget
show if you
about
thought
rural
that.
America. I think the working class feels left behind. They feel like the powerful, the elite only care about them and their power. And he spoke to them. We may not have liked his words, but they turned out for him. I mean, the map was, it was beyond Reagan what we saw last night. And I think we need to start listening more about the concerns of everyday Americans who feel like this system is failing.
When Reagan won, I remember the whole map was red.
Yeah.
It was pretty red last
Oh, now
night.
she's gonna be a
I
right
don't know.
winger.
I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was "America makes a perilous choice." I think that in 2016 we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now.
This one is the
And,
most vitriolic
we
of
know
them
now
all.
that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry, not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember
Bullshit.
my father telling me many
What
years
is
ago
what?
that I was the
What are
first
they
person
saying?
in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from
Oh
becoming
yeah, I'm
president
sure.
of the United
Yeah,
States.
yeah. Bring up
I
the 14th
think
Amendment,
that
you
going
dumb
forward,
bitch.
the
I'm
convicted
sure that'll
felon bumps
fucking
on
work.
Employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country. Because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons.
Well,
And
Is
so
somebody
that
that's
box
not paid
better
an
be
employee
taken
still?
off. And I think our health
Or are
care
they a
system is now at
volunteer, you
risk.
dumb
I
bitch?
think
No
Sorry, baby.
fluoride for anyone.
yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing
Well, he's
to do
not.
with policy.
And she's
I
not.
think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Well, I think
Cultural resentment, my ass.
You know,
If anything, we
I
came
think it has
together
to
as
do
a
with
culture,
lot of
boys
things,
and
that
gals.
being one of them. I'm obviously very disappointed. I'm very sad. I was at the Kamala Harris headquarters
Oh, the one
yesterday
that
in
she didn't even come out
Washington,
and tell you guys thanks
and
for coming.
It was a very sad scene. The mood turned immediately, and I tell you, there's a quote I get a lot of inspiration from, and it's a quote that I read when I was reading about John F. Kennedy, and it says, "Whether I am on the winning or the losing side is not the point with me. It is being on the side where my sympathies lie that matters." And that to me brought me a consolation and inspiration this morning.
Your
because
sympathies are misplaced.
I have no regrets. I worked hard as hell to elect the first Black Asian
Not a hard
woman
enough.
president.
Not hard
History
enough.
slipped through our fingers.
And you're
again.
sitting there in the middle.
I worked hard
So
as
you
hell
should
for
think
Donald Trump
on it.
not to be president. But today, unlike Donald Trump and his followers, I acknowledge that he won. I hope for the best for our country, and I make a commitment to our LGBTQ, to our immigrants, to our elderly, to our young girls, to the women, that we will not stop fighting. We can be sad today. Today we can be sad. Tomorrow we stand up and we
Oh, I'm sure-
continue. We have every right.
I'm
as
sure tomorrow won't
Americans,
be any worse than
because
this.
we love this country, because this is the most exceptional country in the world. We have the right and the duty to speak up and denounce abuses of power, to be vigilant. And so I invite all Americans to do it. But we are doing what they didn't do. We are recognizing they won. Now let's see what happens when he is governing.
So, well, you look. We said to people, vote. We didn't tell people who to vote for.
Right.
We just said go out. Huh? well, yes, but I did not.
Yeah, I do.
Because I wanted to make sure people exercise that right. Too many people that I know died trying to vote.
Yeah.
Okay? So we start with that.
Wait, what?
And
What?
Yeah, I do.
go out. Huh? well, people vote.
All right, let's see this goon open her mouth.
We said to people, vote. We didn't tell people who to vote for.
Right.
We just said go out. Huh? well,
We
yes,
listened.
But I did not.
Yeah, I do.
Because I wanted to make sure people exercise that right. Too many people that I know died.
Come on,
trying
Whoopi. We
to
know you
vote.
voted for Trump.
Okay, so we start with that. And think about this. She did this in 2 months. She did this in 2 months.
She left it all on the
You
field.
know,
Yes, she
look,
did.
she, you know, everybody can.
campaign.
Did this in 2
always
months
say,
without a
she should've
primary
done this, she
election,
should've done this,
too.
She did what she did. She was everywhere.
She didn't do
talked
shit.
to everybody, and people didn't come out. I don't know why.
She had a
and it
lot of
doesn't
money
even
back
matter.
behind her because Joe Biden
He's
had
not
a
the
war
president. I'm
chest.
still not going to say his name. That's not going to change. Yeah.
I have faith that some good, decent people are going to work for him. I've heard from some folks today. I think there's some reasons to be hopeful that people who believe in public service in the
Not
country
you,
are gonna
bitch.
vote.
You
know
will
the
not
thing
be
I-
working
the
for him.
thing that I wanted to finish up with is it's hard for some of us to hear that rhetoric.
Yeah.
We'll see how much longer your
50
Republican
years,
spot lasts on the
you know,
show, too.
After 70 years, to hear that rhetoric coming back, to hear things that came out of people's mouths that we all decided as a public group we weren't going to talk to each other that way.
Yeah.
So for me,
We all decided
when
as a
I
public group
hear
we were
that,
going to get rid of
I
free
can-
speech. Is that what she just
I
said?
feel okay when I'm pissed at somebody who's talking down to somebody else. I'm all right with that.
Okay,
What I'm not all right with
same.
is trying to further wreck the country. So that's why everything that everyone is saying at the table really comes down to, listen, we're still here. People, when I got out of the car today, because nobody will let me drive, I saw mailmen.
Why are
with their
people not letting her
kids.
drive?
I saw people walking around, looking, drinking what is the coffee stuff from
Think she's too important to drive?
I don't drink coffee, so I never remember. But I saw people living their lives, and that's what we have to do. And when things get to be so bright that we see them, we got to call them out.
Yes.
You have to call them
And
out.
no one's going to be
Can I say
storming the
one thing?
Capitol.
Yes, yes,
You know
yes.
what? You know what gets me? The exit polls showed, according to our research department here at ABC News, the state of democracy was the top issue to voters overall.
State of democracy.
So that says that
What exactly
they
does that
voted for a
mean?
guy who
Covers
wanted to
so many
overthrow the
things.
election, who also
They even
he
said
would be a
on the
dictator on
show
day one,
that
and
that
they
was a
also
part of
said
in
that democracy was number
NBC.
one. So I'm
That was
concluding
not a
that maybe
good
they don't
category.
believe him.
But I think
that means-
I think it means different
What is
things.
it?
I
What?
think democracy means different things.
It means a different
to different
thing.
people.
Well, when you're trying to overthrow a legitimate election and you say you're going to be a dictator, I don't know how you interpret that any other
It's a
way,
democracy.
frankly. So I can only conclude that they don't believe he's going to do that. And I hope they're right. I hope that they are right.
So we're going to break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Join us now to break down WTH.
What the
Yeah,
hell?
that's right. I always had to make sure. And how it impacts the future of this country. Please welcome ABC Political Director and Washington Bureau Chief. Why are the names so long?
Why can't you fucking read?
Washington Bureau Chief. Rick Klein. So, Rick,
That's your job, right?
I don't believe in polls. I think polls are just, they're meant to annoy people.
And you were right.
Yes.
Again. You were right.
Again.
Yeah.
Yes. But these last several months, the polls have had everything neck and neck. But last night, it was what happened to whose neck got broke? Where did it go?
At the end of a campaign, I'm sick of polls too.
Your
That's
neck
my
got
job,
broke.
Right? You get overloaded.
The entire
And what
left's.
the polls were telling us is that this was a very divided country, and it was going to be a close race. And I was telling people this, and it didn't make sense even when I said it. Sometimes I said it's so close it could be a landslide in either direction.
Right.
Because that's the knife's edge that we're on as a country. And what happened last night is that the country tipped pretty consistently in the same direction. And I'm sitting there, I'm on ABC, working our boards, working the wall.
You were up late.
I'm still up, actually.
So were you.
I was like, and I'm seeing, okay, well, that there, it's a little redder than it's supposed to be, or that it was going to be, and oh, wow.
Then
that
it's
blue place,
supposed to be.
Why haven't we called New Jersey yet? Why haven't we called Connecticut
I
yet?
love it,
Rhode
dude.
Island?
Virginia.
Took forever. And you realize, actually, the country was speaking pretty loudly at the margins, and that's all it takes, because we're so closely divided, and the country is at odds in so many ways that a little shift goes a long
Obviously,
way.
we're
And
not
that's what we
closely
saw, and
divided
I
at
think
all.
It was a major statement about the state of the country. This conversation, I think, has been
Is he
very
just
important
talking out of his
because we have
ass?
to learn from these things to understand them. And I think this was the country speaking. It would be
Closely
a lot harder to understand,
divided.
I think, if it was a divided electoral college or different with the popular vote. There was a statement last night.
Yeah.
So I know it's early to be doing this, and there's a lot more detail that's going to come out in the next few days. But can we flesh out some of the numbers, some of the demographics, representation? What did that translate into, or not? What headway did Trump make with Black and Latinos? Can we talk about that a little?
Sure, yeah. The gender gap was about what it usually is, right? It's about 20-point gender gap, right? Trump won men by about 10 points, and Harris won women by about 10 points. But inside those numbers, you saw some really stark things with Latino voters. The fact that it was only an 8-point gap, that Harris was only carrying Latinos by 8 points, was really startling to me.
Why?
What's
Why?
that?
Tell us why.
Because I think the conventional wisdom for a long time has been that Latino voters are more likely to support a Democrat, and I think everything leading up to and then including the
Latino voters are some of the only people,
said, okay,
or some of the majority of people in this country that know what it is to gain American citizenship. These people are idiots for thinking that they're so
Socially conservatives. There's everything.
their IQ level is so far down that they wouldn't realize that.
Actually, Latino voters, a lot of them just think like other voters. And what we saw from all kinds of voters, and it was men, it was women, Latino, Black, it didn't matter, that people said, you know what, I know who that guy is. I may not like him, but I really don't like the fact that things are more expensive. I don't like that things don't feel as secure as they did a couple of years ago. And they held their noses in many cases and decided to support someone that they know very well. And it may not even be a judgment about Vice President Harris.
I'd imagine having to talk like this guy, dude.
Three-quarters of the country.
Imagine having to tiptoe around every single thing you say.
I'm in a worse place financially than I was 4 years ago. That's a very difficult argument to make, to argue against if someone feels that, because they're not going to believe any statistic, any number.
Well,
Wow.
I want to dig further into the demographics, because Black women tried to save this country. again last night. 92% of black women voted for
92% of black women.
You have
It's only
Latinas in
7% of the
70
vote,
percentile
guys. If
voting
that,
for the
maybe.
vice president. What we did not have is
Probably
white
4 or
women
3%
who
because
voted
people
about
don't actually get out and
52%,
vote.
Right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men actually voting more for him, and you have and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
So why do you think that uneducated white women voted against their reproductive health freedoms, and why do you think Latino
They
men
didn't.
voted in favor of someone that's going to deport, says he's going to deport
I don't
the majority
think
of his
white
community?
women like being called uneducated white women. I think the
But that's what
economy
the-
matters,
that's
national
what the- that's what
security
the
matters.
poll said.
But when you put people in these boxes, I think that's a takeaway.
Oh, now
from
she's
this.
going to go after
We have-
people.
we have
I've been
to
watching
look
the show
at
for
the
the last
Democratic
a month and a
It's
half.
interesting, the
This bitch
electorate
hasn't gone
overall,
after these
even though the
women
country's been
once.
diversifying for decades. The country,
Just
the voting
agree,
public
agree,
actually got
agree.
a little bit whiter. Because a lot of voters of color decided not to show up. They didn't think there was anything in their interest to do it. And look, people can vote on anything they want. They can vote because they like the color of someone's hat, or because of reproductive rights, or because of the economy. Any of those things can play in. And if you looked at this election purely through the lens of what's the economic situation in the country, you would have said there's no way the incumbent party can win. If you looked at it purely from the personal attributes of the candidates, you say there's no way that Donald Trump can win. Right. But people make these judgments, and they make them in complex ways. And sometimes people vote against their own self-interest
complex
in some
ways.
narrow areas, or even some broad areas, just because. And this is just a country that is in a kind of a funk. Very angry in some ways, divided.
We're not in a
some
funk,
ways.
boy. We
United in
are
other
committed
ways. I
and
think
obviously
this was actually
united.
a moment of remarkable unity at the end of the day, in terms of how an election can speak. This was a statement.
Well, Rick, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the gender gap, but you kind of alluded to that. So one other question that pops to mind is independents accounted for a larger share of voters than Democrats.
Yeah.
They tied with Republicans in turnout. So once again, independents showed up. What happened to Democrats?
Yeah, so this is a long-term trend in this country that more people identify as independents. And some of them are actually independent. Some of them just call themselves that, and they have to be very conservative or very, very liberal. But I think the idea of party labels is less and less appealing to people.
Yeah.
And,
Agreed.
And I think you're going to see more elections that are determined by this unaffiliated group.
Less and less. Yeah, right. I'm pretty
or
sure everybody's okay
moderates,
being a
or
Republican
maybe
right now,
join
if they
a
are.
third party. I think that's going to be a very big piece. I was looking at some states where in North Carolina, in the early vote, it was a third Democrat, a third Republican, a third unaffiliated. And I said, okay, they're the deciders right there. And guess what? We saw how North Carolina broke, just like all the other battleground states seem to have.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Rick's gonna stay?
good.
Rick, did
We'll
you know
keep
you
you.
were staying?
We'll keep you.
So we're gonna be back with more with Rick Klein when we return.
Great. More out of this dumbass's mouth. Jesus. What? He's literally, all he's done is walk on eggshells around these women, trying not to say the wrong fucking thing. Sat here and watched him for the last 10 minutes.
Yes.
You have the
An
question.
idiot.
So, you know, women's health care and abortion is specifically was on the definitely one of the cries
Sorry,
of
my
the
wife was,
Democratic Party. They were really
judging
banking
me
on
for a
it, I
sec.
think. And only 14% of Americans voted for that particular thing. Why do you think women didn't turn out for that?
I think there's a little bit of, I think it's been in the ether for so long. And it's been codified in different states, and people have had a chance to vote multiple times in some cases, either on a constitutional amendment or a law or on a state legislative race. I think it's taken, some of the political punch is taken out of the fact that it's come up so much, and people have gotten used to what's a new normal, which happens over time. And you saw the 2022 midterms were very strange because the Democrats didn't do nearly as badly as you would have thought based on the other fundamentals, and probably had a lot to do with the Dobbs decision.
Yeah.
But now it's been another 2 years, and people think about other things. And in their state, they get used to the law, they get other chances. It just didn't have the same kind of motivating.
So if you're in a state that allows it, you're fine. If you're not, then you're screwed.
That's what it would seem to me. And there were some indications that maybe this would be the big thing, but it certainly wasn't a salvation for Democrats.
Well, it did decent on the referendums, though.
Yeah,
Didn't
and I
7
think,
out of 10 states.
Yeah, and even in Florida, it would have passed if not. Yeah, it's still, public opinion hasn't changed on it. It's just that people gotten used to it.
Yeah, Florida has a 60%
Right.
threshold, and I got
Makes
to
it possible,
57%.
yes.
I do want to ask about, so Trump beat his previous numbers in a number of states. And Vice President Harris underperformed where she should have been in some of these blue states. Illinois, New Jersey, New York, and even Virginia was more of a nail-biter than we expected. Where was the Democratic base, and where are we seeing voters flock away? It really, to me, seems like there's this tectonic shift of working-class voters away from the Democratic Party.
Yeah, to me, the voters were out there. It's just the Democrats didn't find them. The Republicans did. And this is this will end up being a very high turnout presidential election. Maybe not as high as 2020, but very high. So people were engaged, they were interested, but they weren't being found. Sometimes in a non-competitive
Maybe
state
not
like
as high as
Illinois or New York,
2020.
no one's really looking.
What,
for
when
them,
nobody went out and
somehow
voted?
Trump's supporters found
Because of
each other. And they
COVID?
found a vessel for their frustration. But in many cases, it really was. There were large swaths of states, even in battleground states, where you didn't see the Democrats trying. You didn't see them really trying to field messaging or candidates that would be effective.
Do you I just have to ask this. Do you think the fact that he's been running for 4 years and people saw him every day? Because quite honestly, you could not turn on the television. You see one story about Joe Biden, you see 90 stories about all the crazy stuff over a 4-year period. So do you think maybe that helped?
Only 4 years? I think it's 10.
Yeah, he's been
He
running
basically
that.
never stopped.
I wasn't paying attention to it. Just the last 4. I didn't pay attention to the first 4.
I think that Donald Trump understands the medium of television, of media, understands how to be dominant in people's lives, and he's lived rent-free in Americans' lives for a decade. Like him or not, he's there, and he understands the power of disruption and being there. And I think
Rent-free because of you
the
people.
Clinton campaign, we saw with the Biden campaign, and then we saw with the Harris campaign. They tried to run more traditional campaigns. You're very disciplined about the events you do, the kind of interviews you do. It became an event when she came on The View instead of just, hey, just say yes and show up everywhere.
Right.
Trump showed up everywhere. And
He
was
doesn't
out there.
show up here.
What?
Not here anymore, but he was.
Is this guy literally saying that Kamala had a better way of going on shows than Trump did?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Everybody
What the
covered it.
fuck is this guy
And
talking
so
about?
I think maybe the identification comes because that's the person you know.
Yeah.
You say that it's what you said earlier.
This guy should lose his fucking job. Jesus, man.
In the control
Let me
room.
ask you this. Actually, I want to correct something that I asked you before. I said uneducated white women. It's non-college educated white women per the polls. But Republicans took back the Senate majority. What's the likelihood, in your view, that Republicans take the House? And can you talk about what it would mean?
You mean women that didn't go and
if
pull
the
out,
Democrats have the House or the
60,
Republicans?
70 grand to
we're
go
going
to
race by
school?
race at this point, and maybe a couple of
Pretty
weeks
smart,
because
if you
there's
ask
some
me.
California races with a lot of mail-in vote. I think it looks likelier than not that the Republicans keep the House, but I don't want to prejudge it because it could go. But look, whether Republicans have the House or not, Donald Trump will come back to Washington empowered as he wasn't before, because he'll have an expanded Senate majority. He'll have a Supreme Court that handed down an immunity decision, and it's got a 6-3 conservative majority on it. And he's got the opportunity to approve justices if someone retires or leaves the bench, in addition to cabinet secretaries. And he's got a team around him that kind of gets it more now. Yeah. And I think that's a fact that people should be dialed into.
The first thing he said that was true.
His second term is going to be like his first term. I think his team believes, and Alyssa knows this, they believe they made a lot of mistakes in staffing, in policy proposals.
Yeah, her.
And that they think
She was
they
a
have
mistake.
Ideas around this, and they're not going to have. There's no Mitt Romney left in the Senate. There's no Liz Cheney left in the House. Yeah. To me, just as interesting as the fact that you'll have maybe 54 senators or Republican senators or something is most of them, or most of the new ones, owe their political existence to Donald Trump. They came, they were endorsed by him. That's a different dynamic, and that will be something that I think everyone should be watching.
We will be watching.
Yes. We won't have a choice. It'll be everywhere. Our thanks to Rick Klein. Thank you.
Rick Klein, you're a fucking idiot. Rick Klein. Never watching anything he does or voting on anything he does. Wow.
Welcome back.
Wow.
Some pundits are asking what the vice president could have done differently to break through with the voters. Of course, she only had 3 months to campaign, rally. She kicked his butt all over.
Yeah, it's almost like there wasn't a primary election where you got, you guys democratically chose who you wanted to be the next running person for your fucking.
So how much more could she have done? Or
Party.
should she? I mean, aside from buck naked dancing on the top of the table, I don't know what else she could have
I don't
done.
think she could have done more. I think she left it all out on the field. I think she raised $1 billion in 3 months. I think that she
was given $1 billion.
She ran a flawless campaign, and I maintain that. I think now it's the time for us to work.
For a super
I
PAC.
think now is the time that we must stay vigilant. We have to speak truth to power and speak out. I intend to continue doing that. I think we need to stick up to bullying. We have to make sure that our institutions hold. I think that we have to watch very carefully the Supreme Court and the federal judicial appointments. And I think that we need to protest when we and exercise our right of freedom of speech and protest as is required or embedded in the Constitution. And I think in 2 years, if we see this country in a direction that we don't want it to be, then we must stand up and we must vote again in the midterms.
You know, I asked Kamala Harris that. Why is it that people don't know you? What is it that's going wrong? And she said to me,
Well, I'm a vice president.
Realize this, they have never.
I'm a vice president who was given a job to take care of the border, never even went down to the border to see what was going on. This is why probably people don't know who I am. I never actually did fucking shit.
Never seen anybody that looks like me run for this. And until you see it, you don't process it, right? So they don't know in what silo, they don't know where to put me and how to define me. I think she has a point on that. Look, I think I'm very proud of the campaign she ran. The country had a very stark contrast to pick from. She decided to run a campaign of optimism and joy, of
and lies,
of a unified vision for America.
Yeah, lying.
That's what she offered. The country decided to go in the different direction. That's on
Yeah, it's
us,
almost like the country
not
doesn't
on
like
her.
fucking
I
liars.
see it really as a critique of Kamala Harris. I think it's the Democratic Party in this iteration versus what Trump's offering. I think she did as well as she could under the circumstances she faced. I think that there were some headwinds from Biden that we just were not properly sussing out. The pain of the economy is real. Macro trends are one thing. The stock market is high, but a lot of people don't even have money in the stock market. A lot of people, the aspiration of owning a home feels out of reach. There are forgotten Americans, a lot in the middle of this country, who feel like DC isn't working for them. They feel like the elites are getting wealthier. They hear about student loan forgiveness, but 2/3 of Americans didn't get a chance to go to college, and that doesn't appeal to them. I think there are some real lessons. We've got to listen, because what happened last night should have. Donald Trump's not a nice guy. He's not somebody I look up to or like having in the presidency.
No, I get that
but
all.
people still turned out.
I can't wait until they fire this girl all the way on the right.
Run far left enough. She
I
centered
really
herself,
hope they
and
get rid of her.
I commend her for that, because I think this is a rejection of the far left, which is so out of step with the mainstream.
Listen, I'm not a pundit like you. I mean, you have all of those chaps, and I appreciate that. But I grew up like that. I grew up in a tenement. We did not have money. We could not afford a house. We did not have a car. And we still voted for the party that was looking out for me and my family. We were not voting for a party that was looking out for rich people. I grew up exactly like they are growing up today. That is my problem with what happened yesterday.
I understand that,
they
but
did not, and they did not. These people did not see the party that will help them.
But that's not how the voters interpret it. I hear and see what you're saying. They saw him, and for some reason, they think he is going to fight for them more. The economy is going to get better. They're going to have more money. I'm not defending, but that is what the voters said.
Why did it resonate with him?
It resonated because I
love how upset Joy Behar is.
All the time, 55 times a day. That's your guy. That's the one you start to listen to. It's a habit. He's a habit. That's what he's become.
The America that they voted for is not going to be the America that they thought they voted for.
Well,
I'm sure you don't know. We don't know what we voted for. Yeah, we're so uneducated, so fucking stupid. Didn't go to college. We don't know what we voted for. You're right.
Because he's looking at me. We will be right back. Welcome back, Sarah. You had
Well,
a
we were
point.
talking a little bit about what could Vice President Harris have done differently, and I don't feel, again, like you guys, I echo, I don't think she could have done more. She was put in a slightly impossible situation in a lot of ways, and she over-delivered in that regard. But to the Democratic Party in general, I don't mean voters as much as operatives and DC-minded people, there are some things that continued to buzz their head. Democrats, when voters would talk about this is the issue that's concerning me, they'd play it down. From the economy, there's a crisis at the border, it's not a problem. Don't worry. Crime's up. Well, no, the numbers show it's down, so it's not there. And then Biden's current condition, like when he was going through things, everyone said, no, that's mean to say that. Don't do that. Well, looking back, and hindsight's always 2020, those were big red flags.
Why can
And that's
Trump
what
do
showed up.
anything? Why can he be completely
I'm not saying that.
flawless?
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that this, a lot of my shock was not that Trump won, but the level in which he won was a referendum. And I think you hit it, Alyssa, in the first segment when you said you have to pause.
It's almost like the country isn't very divided.
History becomes, or what do you say?
Past becomes prologue.
Yeah.
But he's a complete aberration. He is a politician that is
now.
twice
It's now
impeached.
twice that
How
he's
how
won.
is it that we have normalized someone who tried to start an insurrection, who is an election denier,
He didn't try to start an
who's a
insurrection.
convicted felon, who's twice impeached, who is filed for
Incorrect.
bankruptcy 6 times. He's
Stupid
not
people,
a rich
stupid
man.
fucking people started insurrection. Mob mentality started insurrection, not Donald Trump.
And all the fake news that's been going out there. You know, one of the things that we need to do, and it's not to abolish the Department of Education. As a former teacher, believe me, he's talking about doing that.
Yes.
You know, kids I brought this up before, I'm going to bring it up again. In Finland, kids in nursery school are learning to discern between fake news and real news. They should be teaching that in this country.
Yes.
Teach children tolerance.
Then you guys wouldn't have any viewers.
Well, it would help if
The
we
View
could
would-
regulate
would-
social media. 'Cause
would
one
not
of the
be
biggest
around.
offenders is DC and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations
Not
of
going to
social
get any
media.
better
It's not
with
gonna- it
Elon
works
Musk
for
now
them.
in the administration. I want to end by thanking Joe Biden for having given us
Yes, thank you,
4
Joe
years
Biden.
of
Appreciate
decency,
you.
a moral compass.
You gave us this
legislative
election.
accomplishments that help
When you put on that
Americans.
hat, buddy.
So and haven't gotten
Thank
us
you.
out of COVID.
We'll be right back.
Tomorrow, ESPN host and political commentator Stephen A. Smith is given his play-by-play of Election Day 2024.
This guy thinks he can be president. Play-by-play guy on fucking ESPN or whatever he
Joy
is.
and Sonny are on the behind
And our
the
support
table.
animals.
And there's support animals today.
No, Cha-Cha's not going on.
Okay.
No, okay. Well, we want you all to have a great day. Take a little time to enjoy the view. And remember, it's all in our hands. We'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely GG, View. You are a huge reason why Donald Trump is in the White House. So I hope you guys figure it out.